HT.
And is less because of its matchup against Miracles and more because of its matchup against things like Combo and the Critter decks, which were oppressed by Miracles.
Okay. Now, some back, so we're going to see, and looks like we have a Deathrite Shaman turn 2 here with possible Daze backup. I couldn't quite see his hand. I think allowing a Deathrite Shaman to stick is fine. Conserve your spells. The issue our friend on Bug is going to have here is the fact that he's got a Delver. The fact that his opponent has double Swords of Plowshare, he obviously doesn't know that just yet.
Correct.
But let's bring up our favorite friend, Delver of Secrets. He is the bulk rare that everyone threw away that came out during Innistrad. I've been told stories of foil Delvers being left on tables.
Yeah.
Are you one of those people?
No.
No.
I like shiny things.
Fair. Swords of Plowshare, one of our legacy staples that Modern wishes they could get.
Yep. Definitely working Swords of Plowshare on the unflipped Delvers early on is great.
Very well.
Bug has very few bodies, so being able to get rid of the early bodies is huge.
Correct. Now, something Bug did get, as of recent, along with Grixis, is Fatal Push. One of the best removal spells in the format, in my opinion. Standard All-Star, and we're going to see a Daze here. And I couldn't quite see what we got here. So, Fatal Push. We had a Leovold cast, and looks like it is gone. So I think Leovold was just clearing the way for the Stoneforge to get the Batterskull in.
Correct.
Seems, and he also had another Leovold, so in this list, you have his list over there. How many Leovolds?
He's got 2 Leovolds, so he happened to get them both early on, which is great. You know, and this is another one of those...
He's going to get Abrupt Gate. He's going to get to draw a card, though. Let's hope he does not forget his trigger. And he did. Can we tell him about his trigger?
Nope.
No? Okay.
So putting Leovold into the Esper Deathblade list is definitely a good idea because a lot of times people are going to be targeting your permanents.
Yes.
That's how you get rid of it.
With Delvers being as big as they are, too, with Wastelands, things of that nature, I'm going to Wasteland you cool. I'm going to replace it.
Yep. Being able to draw cards is important in any sort of Stoneforge list. Even when you've got the blue in there, a lot of times a lot of your draw power comes from searching and digging. Being able to just have pure card advantage, I believe, is going to be great for Deathblade lists in general.
Okay. Looks like we're fetching. We're probably going to see a Swords of Plowshare end of turn here. Looking to find, I'd say, Tundra. He has Tundra, Underground, Trop. So he's going to go find his Savannah.
Yep.
So I actually talked with Morgan before the round had started. We had talked to moving up a land in his deck. We told him it is a Savannah. That is the Savannah art. We had talked about this in the matchup earlier, and we told him to run a basic plains. And he jokingly said, no, I'm going to run a Savannah. So he is dead to Blood Moon. There is no other answer to this. He is just in trouble. Right. It looks like he's drawn Batterskull. So he looks like he's going to go for the Stoneforge. I'm going to say find Fire and Ice. And he also drew Thoughtseize for turn. So I believe he's going to Thoughtseize first, see if the coast is clear, because he does not have Probe out yet. And Probe's only a one of on our Bug Delvers list. Do you have any Probes over there, or not enough room?
Do not have.
Seems like he's a very heavy creature list. I know he does not run days.
Yeah, he definitely runs the extra creatures, and again, that's one of the issues that most Stoneforge lists run is if you get rid of all their creatures, their equipments do next to nothing.
Correct, so him going heavier on Death Rights and things like that actually put him in a pretty good spot. Now this is tough. Do you counter this? A Force of Will would be 2 for 1ing yourself over a Thoughtseize. Do you keep the one card you want in your hand versus it, or...?
The issue is if you want them to know what it is that you have in hand.
Okay.
Alright, so playing with knowledge in hand is one of the big things, and that's one of the reasons that Probe is as good as it is. Okay. Sure, it draws you a card, but one of the key parts is the fact that you get to know what it is that your opponent is doing. You are allowed, with that information, to figure out your lines of play. Right? You can play around what they have in hand, play around... You know when the coast is clear, as you say. Right. That's one of the big things, and doing that with Thoughtseize is another way of doing that. In addition, instead of drawing a card, you're removing a card from their hand. Okay. Now,
here's what was interesting to me. I would have waited a turn on the Stoneforge, I think. He played Thoughtseize, his opponent Spell-Pierced it with 3 mana up. Knowing that your opponent is trying to hide those cards so well, would you just try to keep it, or you think he's bluffing, maybe?
Opponent's tapped out. Putting out the Stoneforge now is probably a better idea. They've already tapped the 1 mana for the Spell Pierce, and you've got Daze back up available.
And Delver has not flipped, though.
Correct.
So now that Jitte might be the spell he's playing for turn. With the Spell Pierce gone, how many Spell Pierce in the main for him? Is it on mine? Sorry. Yeah. 2 Spell Pierce in the main, so the odd of another Spell Pierce. Very slim, but we also did just see 2 Leovolds. And we're going to see a Wasteland on the Underground Sea. Keep him off black-blue, leaving him dry on black. Right. Now the opponent also drew a Wasteland. Underground Sea? Or Trop? Because Trop is his only green source in his deck, I believe.
They're both.
They're both?
Yep. We have 4 Underground Seas and 1 Trop below.
Right, but he has only 1 Trop.
Correct.
But he went for the Underground Sea because the mana is more necessary for the work. See Delver, we're going to see a flip off of Fatal Push. So, it's a good time. Actually, can't cast Fatal Push at all.
Can't cast Fatal Push yet.
Oh, I was wrong. Swing 3. We will see what his opponent does when he activates Stoneforge. I'm going to say he's going to bring Batterskull first, because you can just cast the Jitte. Knowing Fatal Push is in hand.
Correct.
Get Jitte out, you just have a dead Batterskull in hand. We have got to get these guys their tokens. So as a Force of Will, and null card effectively. We'll see if our opponent will Fatal Push, and he will. Yep. Which is a good choice.
So the Germ does have 0 converted mana cost. So it is absolutely a good Fatal Push target. And again, it's one of those issues where if you remove enough of the creatures, Stoneforge just does not have the oomph to keep moving forward.
Correct. Now the issue he's done with this, though, he can bounce Batterskull end of turn, just play it on his turn. And start nulling out Delver's life slowly but surely. Batterskull is 3 to return, correct?
It is 3 to return, but he doesn't have the 5 mana that would be ideal to return it to your hand and then activate Stoneforge, put it back at the end of the opponent's turn.
But he will now. He can do the 3, return Batterskull, 4 phases change, and he's going to return Batterskull. Now next turn he has it.
He has a 2 to bring it back next turn, which is good.
Yes.
Again, this is 3 unanswered points of damage now.
That is true. So he did draw another land, which was nice to see. And I would jam the Batterskull out now instead of waiting till end of turn, letting him draw a card, see if he finds any answers. Maybe a Stifle. No Stifles though. His Daze Force Will, he has 4 Fatal Push. This is
very, very few bug decks ever run Stifle nowadays.
Oh, he runs 4 Stifle. They're right there, at the very bottom. 4 Stifle.
So that's definitely
a target.
A target. Yep. So one of the issues is that again, we don't, unless you see the Stifles, you're not going to play around it, unless you're playing something like Rug Delver.
Right.
Rug Delver is known for running Stifle, so when you're looking at the bug list, you're not expecting Stifle, so you're not playing around it.
That's correct, which is actually a little weird. Bug Delver lists for a while. I guess they ran it with Miracles being so big because of stifling the top triggers, things of that nature. Only reason I can really think of it.
Right.
But if we get a Batterskull with a Jitte equipped, this could be starting to become a spiral. There, touching that camera.
I can't tell who.
Probably it's touching
That's
the
that
table.
end of turn Jitte.
But we want to see his opponent has Snapcaster, Brainstorm, and Force of Will in hand. Or he does, rather, sorry. We are not able to see his opponent's keeping him down. We're going to equip the Jitte. Swing for 4. Double block, 3, 4.
Double block is definitely the right way of doing this. You need to be able to get rid of that token.
Yes.
If you allow it to get any triggers before you can get rid of that token, then your Batterskull is going to start getting larger.
Correct.
Very relevant.
Now this was still life gain for him, though.
Correct. So
And the Jitte still has counters and doing a 2 for 1. That does not sound terrible to me. And next turn he can just bounce, repeat, or just equip the Stoneforge with a Jitte and start going in.
Correct.
Which I've seen many players do. Now in the Bug Delver list, the interesting thing is he is not running any Baleful Strix. Which I've seen a lot of Bug lists running Baleful Strix. But as you said, his list is very minimal on creatures. 4 Delvers, 4 Deathrite, 4 Tarmogoyf, which we haven't seen yet, and 1 True Name Nemesis. A lot of decks have been doing this 1 of True Name Nemesis, and I'm not liking it. I think True Name's either a 4 of, or maybe a 2 of, maybe 3, but...
It really depends on the type of matchups. Very rarely do I ever see True Name in the main board as a 1 or 2 of. A lot of times you board them in. I think it's meta call right now. You know, if you take a look around the room and you take a look around, you know, what it is that people are playing, True Name is an amazing card. I mean, without Miracles around to keep it in check, very few decks have a way of answering it.
Okay.
You know, things like Pyroclasm, don't touch it.
Yep.
You know, which is super relevant. You know, you need a some sort of Wrath effect, and you know, without Terminus or Supreme Verdict, you have very few ways of handling it.
That is correct. Now, it's a shame, too, because the only real things that get around it, he's going to stifle the fetch. We're going to see if his opponent is willing to Force of Will this effect. He has 2 Force of Wills in hand and a Snapcaster. I'd be betting he'd Force of Will with Snapcaster. As the exile, he's going to do the Brainstorm.
Brainstorm, yep.
I like the Brainstorm. I like to keep the Brainstorm.
He doesn't need it. He's already got all the answers that he needs. What he needs is mana. He needs the lands. He doesn't need to dig anymore. He's got both of his equipments, and he's got the Stoneforge Mystic up. He can suit up next turn, and he's set.
Okay. Now we're going to see if the opponent has a second Stifle, it seems, because he is still fetching in response. And the only card left in his graveyard, though, is of relevance is Sword to Plowshare. One of them was eaten, but he has 2 in there.
Correct.
Brainstorm, response, get the fetch out, see what he finds. It is a very back and forth match, actually, but it seems that the Esper Stoneblade has a far more advantageous board state than Bug Delver. We have a friend personally that played American Delver, American Stoneblade. Do you think that's just a good deck versus one of these in this new meta?
I think it has more threats, which is, again, the downside of most of the Stoneforge lists. You don't have enough bodies to start putting equipments onto. Right? And that's what these matchups, you know, that's what this matchup is going to be about. Who can get rid of whose bodies the most.
Okay.
All right.
He's going really heavy on this Stoneforge.
He's also going very heavy with the Batterskull.
Right.
So he's decided to return the Batterskull to hand, and again, he's going to try dropping it out there. And again, you know, it's great that you're able to do that, but you got to realize that you're almost time walking yourself. You're doing this every other turn.
Right. He has a kill spell every other turn.
Correct.
He can keep killing it. I'd say get the Stoneforge in with the Jitte, get the counters up, and then Batterskull's a secondary thought. You have a Jitte with 4 counters on it. That Stoneforge's going to swing it for 9. Or more, depending later on.
Yep. And you got to realize you've already got the Jitte. You know, you've got counters up. You can get rid of almost any creature on their side of the field.
Correct.
So you should be fine. But again, I can definitely understand the benefit behind wanting the Batterskull Germ out and just being able to gain that life, you know, outside of the Jitte.
And I guess with the Germ out, it is a larger threat than Stoneforge. And he can do it instant speed whenever he so feels. We are going to see the 1-of Probe in his deck. 1 of the taxing Probe, I say let it happen.
Yeah, there's no reason not to.
Yeah.
You know, you don't care what information they have. They already know that you've got the Batter Skull. The only thing that we really see here now is the Stoneforge. So he's, sorry, the Snapcaster Mage. So we're going to expect him to take a look at his graveyard and see what it is that he wants to Snapcaster.
Absolutely.
The other thing is that now you also know that he has Force of Will. So you're going to be playing around those two things, making sure that you can win the counter war, making sure that you can get the threats out that you need. Again, here we see him taking out that white source. You know, the white source is what's important here for the Stoneforge matchup. That's how you're going to be activating.
That's correct. Which
Stoneforge.
This is probably his last time getting through that. We've had 3 white sources destroyed.
Yep.
So, I mean, that actually might be the end of it, huh?
We have one more.
We have one more Tundra left in the deck?
We've got one more Tundra left in the deck, so we should be safe.
What happened here? He didn't lose a land.
This is all with the Wasteland on the stack. He's decided to activate the Stoneforge Mystic, and then with the Batterskull trigger on the stack to make the Germ, we're trying to stifle that right
So that's going to get Force of Will.
Force of Will, exiling, and I didn't notice which card was exiled, but...
It was a Brainstorm.
The Brainstorm?
Yes.
Yeah. And again,
no, it was a Snapcaster, sorry.
Yep, so the Snapcaster goes away, and again, it's because he doesn't have any threats out, and the Snapcaster can potentially allow him to get his other Snapcaster if needed.
Correct. Now, we have not been able to see his hand for quite some time. It looks like we're going to see the final Fatal Push on the Germ token. At this point, I mean... Start swinging in with Stoneforge, right? Get the Jitte equipped until you find a 3rd land.
Can't equip the Jitte at the moment.
Correct.
We did not get the other land.
But he can Brainstorm end of turn if he so needs. I'd swing with Stoneforge right now. Let's get the points in. Now, he's not going to swing. I think that damage is important. Even if it's just incremental, it's very strong.
I think that when you're playing a Stoneforge deck, you know, and Morgan's been playing this deck for a while, so he knows what he's doing. But I think that when you're playing the Stoneforge deck, you're looking for the haymakers. You know, if you don't have an equipment on, it's not worth swinging. And I think that that's a flaw in general when you're playing these types of decks, where, you know, every point of damage is key, especially when you've got fetch lands and you've got, you know, things like True Name Nemesis, where you might just end up opponents at 4, you've got a True Name Nemesis, no equipment, that's only 3 damage right there. You know, and you go back and you look at, oh, I had that missed Stoneforge trigger swing.
And there it was.
You know, so here it is, you know, as soon as that Jitte gets up to 6,
I don't think they can do anything.
Bug has nothing to answer there.
They
go, okay, I can play whatever I want, and it does nothing.
It's going to die. You know? Now, if we go to Bug's sideboard, Thoughtseize is a great card, especially with Stoneforge Mystic, revealing what they're getting. Surgical is also not a bad card. I wouldn't recommend it in this matchup. He has the Baleful Strix in the sideboard. A Dismember, Abrupt Decay, Golgari Charm wouldn't do much here. Invasive Surgery? I don't know that card. Do you want to look that up? Do you know the card?
Yeah. The Invasive Surgery counters a sorcery spell.
Oh, the new 1 blue.
Correct. It's the new envelope. It's the strictly better envelope.
Envelope. Envelope?
Envelope?
Envelope.
Yeah. So Invasive Surgery,
yes,
that's the one that we were talking about.
We picked up foils of those a long time ago.
Yeah.
And Spell Pierce. I think the Spell Pierce comes in because knowing his opponent does... He doesn't know, but his opponent does not have days in the deck.
Honestly, I think that the Abrupt Decay, the Dismember,
mm-hmm.
and the Dark Blast are what's coming in. You want to be able to get rid of those cheap creatures.
That
all of those, like, the Baleful Strix is another one, being able to just put in the Baleful Strix. You know, it's a body that can always stay up, which is super relevant. I think you're taking out a handful of counters and you're just bringing in extra removal.
Take out dazes on the,
yeah, I mean,
especially if would take out dazes on the draw?
Yeah, if you were on the draw, you would take out the dazes, leaving the Force of Wills. I think coming out of the Deathblade deck, Melee Mage, you saw the Stifles. You know that those are going to get you down. The first thing I would want to put in there is 3 Meddling Mage. Bring those in there. Name Stifle.
Okay.
You want to name Abrupt Decay. You want to name
Fatal
Push. Get that removal out of the way. Get all the things that would slow you down. Name those.
And then there are 2/2 beaters.
Yep. And then you got the 2/2 beaters. I think the other card, And again, we didn't see the True Name coming out of the bug list, but Zealous Persecution is great against True Name Nemesis. It is -1/-1. It doesn't deal damage. They don't have protection from it. It's very relevant.
That is true, and this is one of the few decks in bug that is not up its list of True Name. A lot of lists we've seen out there, especially the Leovold lists. 3 True Name. 3 True Name, so I've seen some lists with 4. And I think that's just a little too much.
Again, they're going for the win conditions, and again, when you've got a card like True Name that very few people can answer, again, you don't see very much Zealous Persecution. You see very little, -1/-1 sweepers across the field.
Correct.
You want a win condition that's Vita that people just cannot answer. And again, that's what the Leovold deck is all about. Being able to put out threats that you either counter or they're going to beat.
That makes sense. Okay, so see, we're getting back to Moles. We see him considering Pithing Needle, which on Deathrite Shaman?
Absolutely. Naming a Pithing Needle on a Deathrite Shaman is definitely a good idea. You can also, if with the Thought Seizes, you can know what it is that they have in hand. If they've got multiples of the same fetch land, you can name Pithing Needle on that fetch land.
Or even Wasteland.
You can name Wasteland again. That's another issue that we saw this game. Esper Deathblade had a hard time getting their land count up. If they had 5 lands, they would be able to return Batterskull to their hand and put it back down with Stoneforge.
Now we will have to talk to them if they go to a game 3. You are not allowed pile shuffles after game 1, correct?
No, you're still allowed.
Still allowed? I thought it was after game 1 you could not.
Nope, you cannot after mulligans. You have to do it before you present it to your opponent.
Gotcha. Okay, I was a little iffy on that roll. Sorry. So, after sideboarding, I still think Esper Deathblade has a fairly reasonable advantage, as long as they can, like you said, get creatures out. Very minimal creatures.
Okay.
I'm actually thinking that let's chase from Prodigy. Very interesting choice.
Prince Prodigy is a win condition, and again, it allows you to dig. The Deathblade decks are looking for ways of digging. They just need to find their one of 4 Stoneforge Mystics, and as soon as they find that, they just ride on that. A lot of their counter spells are to protect their Stoneforge Mystic.
Try to help them out a little bit. Protect the Queen in a different way than Delve.
Correct.
Now, in the list over there, do you happen to have any? Actually, it's my list. There are no artifact removal spells.
Bug has very few artifact removal spells. A lot of their removal is targeted for convert mana cost with Abrupt Decay or creatures, getting rid of the creatures. And again, that
it'll do its job. Absolutely,
it does its job. And against these Stoneforge Mystic decks, you don't care about their artifacts half the time. You care about making sure that their artifacts don't have a body to hold them. So I don't think it's a problem. A lot of the red decks, they're going to bring in the artifact tape because they can deal with the creatures easily.
Correct.
So now, what they can't deal with are the artifacts.
Correct. Now we're seeing a problem with here is Bug Delver, I believe, is mulling to 5.
Yeah.
Your opponent is keeping it at 6. You're mulling to 5. So he has an Underground Seed, Deathrite Shaman to start it off, which could just go phenomenally.
Right, and getting that early acceleration coming out of Deathblade is key, because if you can get far ahead in this type of matchup, and you can continue putting out threats and putting out targets for things like Fatal Push, Bug will just have a hard time keeping up. But the other side of that is Bug is drawing a lot more cards than Deathblade will be.
That's correct, and we are going to see Bug get his Deathrite Shaman out. On turn 2, not the best, but not the worst. With a land to eat, if he does not play land for turn, he does have at least a 2-mana spell. It looks like we're going to see Surgical Extraction on Misty Rainforest.
Looks like it.
Keep the mana down?
Yep, and again, that's one of those very good things. You get to see your opponent's hand, and you get to keep them off of mana fixing.
Correct.
Absolutely important when you're talking about a 3-color deck.
Correct, especially with this kind of deck. Also, Surgical spiking in price due to the banning in Modern of Taxian Probe. So they can still see that. It looks like we see Stifle, Daze, Ponder, Brainstorm. That is a very blue-heavy hand.
Yep. But again, with the Deathrite Shaman, unless they can find some way of removing the Deathrite Shaman, that shouldn't be a problem. He'll always have the colors that he needs.
Correct. And we are going to see, looks like a Brainstorm end of turn. find his second land source, actually. And I've surgical extracted fetch lands before. It's not your best choice, but in this matchup, I guess on a mold of 5, taking anything from them is your best choice.
Correct. And again, especially with these mold 5s, you're sitting there and you're
meddling,
flipping.
Deathrite. So they're going to be both on Deathrite plans, and he's going to be Brainstorm locked for 2 turns with 2 Jaces on top. This could get rough for Esper Deathblade. And his opponent's going to daze it. Maybe baiting the daze, I don't know. I'm going to see a Wasteland.
The Wasteland.
So this
is going to be where...
Surprised the opponent didn't swing.
Yep.
I guess he has Brainstorm in hand.
He's got Brainstorm in hand, and it allows him to start eating the yard if needed.
That's true. We are going to see Underground come back. I'm going to say Ponder. Take a little look and see. Now this is what you were talking about. This is where they just keep you off your lands. You couldn't get to 3 before. Now he can't get to 1. A greedy hand in this matchup seems like it's very favorable for Bug Delver, even on a mold of 5.
Correct, and I think a big part of that is because of the Ponders. You can't Brainstorm lock yourself with a Ponder. You don't like what's on top. It doesn't have what you need. Shuffle it. You've got your shuffle effects.
That's true.
So some combination of Brainstorms and Ponders when you're not running, high number of fetch lands will definitely help you out.
And that's it. He says no more. A little fast, but if it's a losing battle like that and your opponent's slowly incrementally going over you, it might be the time to do it.
But again, this will give the benefit back to Esper being able to go first, and maybe understanding that keeping that sort of risky hand without the counter spells isn't going to hurt.
And now the issue with this Esper Deathblade deck, their only counter spells I believe are Force of Will.
Correct.
No spell pierces.
None. 4 Force of Will.
None on the board.
Brainstorms, Force of Wills. We've got 1 Spell Pierce and 1 Flusterstorm coming out of the board. Again, they're not terrible, but in this matchup, you care less about countering, and you care more about simply removing all of their threats.
Okay.
So you want to be proactive with Meddling Mages, and you want to be proactive with surgical extractions to keep them tied down.
It just seems like such a tight list. I'm not sure. I feel like there's some room to improve on this personal build. I like how it plays. I loved how Game 1 played out.
Yeah.
But Game 2, if you were just off a source, you have no land to recover from this.
That's the problem with any 4-color deck. I mean, it's called Esper Deathblade, but the truth of the matter is, it is a 4-color deck.
There is green.
You're Esper with green. Right? The green is necessary only to cast Deathrite Shaman and maybe gain some life. But you're bringing in Abrupt Decays out of the board, so that's a problem with any deck that runs splashes like that, and especially when you've got multiple weak splashes. If you don't have your colors off the bat, or ways of finding your colors right off the bat,
right,
you're going to be in trouble.
Right. So I mean, at that point, do you think you should have maybe molded 5?
I think he had a good
6
opening 6. I think what ended up happening is that he didn't have the right counter at the right time, and he didn't expect just a handful of threats.
Right, dazes, and then drawing the one wasteland he needed to see.
It was definitely the right 5 to keep for Bug.
Yeah, the wrong 6, I guess. That's just how the deck matches. So we see Basic Island, Double Force, Jace Vern's True Name, Brainstorm, Thoughtseize. So, very active hand, but again, 1 lander. He doesn't like what he sees, he's going to mull it down. Looks like our friend on Bug will be keeping his 7. Which could turn this around fairly easily. Enough kill spells, but like you said, we'd have to see the 6. We have Surgical, Leovold, Fetch, Leovold. That's a mull.
That's a mull, very good.
4-drop, 3 3-drops, a Surgical. And that is rough to see on a game 3 when you're on the play.
I think one of the things that we're looking for now, going down to 5 is hoping that we get 5 answers.
2 lands, a Stoneforge, maybe a Force of Will and a blue card.
Maybe. You know, I mean, you're either going to want a handful of counters to hope that you can get up to, the deficit of being down to 5, or just 5 cards that'll just keep pushing you forward. Again, we've got another no lander. This is very unfortunate.
He does get a scry with a Deathrite Shaman.
Yeah, but that's not something you can bank on. You have to go down to 4. If it was a 1-lander,
it'd be keep.
It would be a keep, absolutely. You do get that scry, like you mentioned, and you'd be able to find whatever it is that you may potentially need. But with no land, not being able to cast a Brainstorm, not being able to cast your Deathrite Shaman on turn 1, there's nothing you can do.
Correct. And this is rough to see. A 4 to 7 hand, especially with one deck with minimal counters. We see Flooded Strand. What do we see here? I couldn't see what else we have. Tundra, Thoughtseize.
Tundra, Thoughtseize, Fetch, and a Jace, which is not a bad hand. It does give you the opportunity to Thoughtseize, see what it is that they're looking for. And you could potentially get to Jace if you can take the right card with Thoughtseize.
No, that's if his opponent has a built board state via Delver, etc.
Again, it's more of a reactive hand than I would like, but when you're going on to 4, you've got 2 spells, 2 lands. You can't complain.
It's the best you're going to get off of 4. Like I said, showing the Ponder here. Our Esper deck has no Ponders.
Nope.
Only that's a rough list. I think
it's a very reactive list, which is fine. You do have the Lilianas, which help control the other side of the board. And again, you don't really need to draw very many cards. You just need to find the cards you need.
Funny thing to look here, there is no Sword of Fireness.
Nope. It's just the 2 equipments and that's it. Not even out of the board.
Really? That is rough. So we do see Deathrite Shaman, which is a nice little draw. We're going to see a Fetch. Luckily no mana up for Stifle. I'm going to say he's going to find Underground Sea. I would like him to play his Tundra to fight back on the Daze possibility.
Yeah, you need to be able to get around Daze. So, and especially in this matchup where you're playing from behind. Just playing into Daze like that is so risky.
It's beyond risky.
And even with the Force of Will, it's not worth it to want to get rid of your Jace, especially when you finally found the Deathrite Shaman. You have the ability to cast Jace next turn.
Right, which is great. That would be the ideal play if you find land, fetch. If it's not stifled, Jace.
Yep. And again, you want the Force of Will to get rid of a threat.
We are going to see Fatal Push happen. Draw. You'll see another Tundra, which is not a bad thing. I'm going to say he's going to play the Tundra and go Thoughtseize first, maybe?
You definitely go Thoughtseize first. You want to see what it is that they're playing with. You may actually not want to play the Tundra. You may want to just kind of bluff that you're stuck on 2 lands.
Okay. Jeez.
Ugh. Playing around Double Daze and a True Name.
There's a Flooded Strand, Abrupt Decay, Double Daze, True Name Goyf.
Yeah.
That is the hand your opponent wants to have every game.
Yep.
That's actually absurd.
Again, this is the type of thing that Morgan did not want to see.
No,
there is no way that he's going to be able to play around Double Daze when you're trying to get rid of True Name Nemesis or Goyf next turn.
Right.
So getting rid of the True Name is absolutely the right play. Yeah. You have outs to Tarmogoyf.
Correct. The True Name, not our best idea.
Again, we do have the second land, so we can afford to pay the Double Daze.
Correct. The only issue he's having now is when he gets 4 mana for Jace, Jace is effectively dead.
Yeah.
I think we're going to see the Goyf here. We have Sorcery, Land, Creature. 3/4. 2 mana, 3/4. Nothing terrible. Nothing to Scott.
Instant.
You have instant?
Fatal Push.
Oh, Fatal Push. So it's a 4/5. Very strong card. We see his 4th land that I would just play and pass. We know he has Double Daze. There's no point in playing Jace.
Correct.
Just gonna counter it.
Yeah. And again, you need that Force of Will with Jace.
3. It's at 4. There we go.
Let's see what we get here now. We got the Brainstorm and Jace.
So we'll see Brainstorm. Hopefully he doesn't Brainstorm lock himself. We will see Fetch. Vern Prodigy,
Prodigy,
Meddling
Meddling
Mage.
And again, we've already seen our opponent's hand, so Meddling Mage is not going to be a bad.
Days? Meddling Mage on days?
I would Meddling Mage on Abrupt Decay. You want to get rid of the removal.
That's true.
And you're playing a Vryn's Prodigy.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I want to be able to get, shut down Abrupt Decay. You can pay through the days right now. You should be safe next turn.
Correct. Should be. So, are we going to see the Meddling Mage this turn?
I don't think so. We still know double days. Even with the fetch land up, you don't know if they've got the Stifle.
He does have the Stifle, doesn't he? We will see Meddling Mage. And we will find out momentarily if he is named Days or Abrupt Decay. I'm hoping Abrupt Decay. But his opponent drew another Fatal Push.
The Fatal Push is a big deal.
That card has seen quite a lot of play. Don't think Wizards made a mistake with it, but...
Not at all. Not even a little bit. I think the Fatal Push is definitely in the right place right now.
Necessary card?
Yeah, I think it was a necessary card, because reprinting something like Abrupt Decay is very challenging.
You're just gonna Abrupt Decay. This is... Yeah. This gets rough. So at this point, do you think Jace is just a dead card in hand, or would you want to shuffle it away and take a free guess, maybe?
We haven't been playing around days so far. I think Jace is dead card in hand only because we've only got the 1 mana to pay through
let alone 2
days. But we've also seen a Brainstorm, so it's very possible that he's gotten rid of the Days, seeing as how for the last few turns the Days have been dead cards.
That makes sense too. Not knowing his opponent has a Jace, maybe bounce the Goyf on the turn it comes out.
Correct.
Figure out what you're gonna do.
And bouncing the Goyf is absolutely the right play if you do cast the Jace. You need to stem the tide, and buying yourself that 1 turn is very relevant.
Correct. Now the issue is True Name now though. Yep. So he is agreeing with Jace is not very effective at this point. We're gonna hope to find a Swords of Plowshare, I'd assume.
Yep. So you want the Swords of Plowshare. Either way, it's a 2-turn clock.
Yep.
Even if you do Swords of Goyf, but what you want most likely is to put a body out there.
Maybe a Stoneforge.
Yeah, getting a Stoneforge, putting a body out there, chump blocking the Tarmogoyf.
Has the 5 mana, it's a hard cast of Batter's Skull.
Exactly.
Get back. I don't know if it's in time though for the before the Deathrite does kill, and that was a basic.
Yeah, that's the problem, where you're playing from behind for most of the game, and then you end up in situations like that where you just cross your fingers and hope.
Did I get it? Nope.
Better go with the unknown than what you do know.
That is correct.
And not playing the Jace there was definitely the right play, because when you play a second threat, you can only bounce 1.
Right, and even then, Deathrite Shaman's coming back.
And again, with Deathrite Shaman, it's a 2-turn clock. You're dealing 2 and then 2.
And then Goyf is a 1-turn clock, so pick your poison, right?
Yep.
Alright. That was our Legacy matchup. Looks like Bug Delver has gotten it.
Yep.
We will be back shortly. Do you know how much time's left on the clock?
Welcome to Trance from Studio 5 HT. Welcome to Trance from Studio 5 HT. Welcome to Trance from Studio 5 HT.